Hey, everybody, welcome to The Edge. I'm Bill Everts, Executive Director of Less Than Least Ministries, and I'm joined today by Pastor David Humphrey. He is the missions pastor at United City Church, one of our great church partners located in Humble on Townsend Boulevard, and they have been on fire for prison ministry and going into prisons with us and doing a 3-day crusade at the Stiles unit. And in the midst of all of that, have decided to get on board with Pando, the Pando app that's on the tablets that inmates had. And so I wanted to spend a couple minutes with Pastor Humphrey here and talk about what they're doing with it and what kind of results they're getting, why they decided to do it, and those kind of things. And so, Pastor David, if you don't mind, maybe just give us a little background on why you decided to do Pando and what it's doing for you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Thanks so much, Bill. We love Less Than the Least and are glad to be partnering with you and all the ministry that we are all doing together. And it's great kingdom work. And you just allow us to you're a good liaison for us into some of the prisons, and so we're excited about what's happening. Once we found out what was going on with Pando, that it existed, we were sold pretty much immediately. Once we could see and hear, I've spoken to the folks from Pando, firsthand, and we heard how many views churches are getting. And it's not just about, we're not trying to, puff ourselves up. Oh, but we feel great because we have so many views. It's just, we know that that's another way for us to reach. We've wanted to get the message of the gospel and discipleship into the prisons. And so this has just worked great. And one of the things that's been so much fun for us, we know that certainly most of the prisoners that watch are not people whom we know. Okay. And we're probably never going to know them. But because we do work in local prisons and we talk about the fact that we're on Pando so that they can feel a little bit more connected with us as a church body, as a local church for them, if they were to, if once they were post incarceration, if they were looking for a church home, we'd love to be that church home for them. And so every time we go in now, a lot of people say, "Hey, I saw you on Pando," and "Hey, I watched you baptize," and hey, and that is so funny. This past Tuesday night, I took a guy in for the first time. He'd never done prison ministry, and so he went in one of the units, and one of the prisoners said, "I've seen you somewhere before. Have you been here?" And he said, "No, I've never been here." And finally, toward the end of the evening, he came back. He said, "I know what it was. You got baptized on Pando a few weeks ago, and I saw you," because he's a really tall guy, and so I didn't think you were going to fit in the baptistry. So it created this really neat, close connection with our inmate friends, and so they're feeling much more a part of our church. And that's not the only way Pando works, of course. I mean, most of the interactions are not going to be in that way. It's just opportunities for us to reach into that inmate who's even perhaps not involved in the chapel ministries or any of those sort of things, but they're just lonely and on their beds, and they have an opportunity to hear and respond to the gospel. And so we're learning our way around. You've been giving us some great suggestions for different things we can do to just sort of tweak things a little bit, but it's been a really simple process for us to get connected. And from the inmates, we're hearing, I mean, they're just so excited about it. And so I know that there's so many more. I mean, we have seen, I was just going to pull up a couple of analytics since we started just a couple of months ago. We've had over 46,000 views. And so we're seeing, I mean, some sermons are being seen, like we got the one sermon has been seen over 3,000 times. And so got a lot of subscribers. 6,156 of our inmate friends are subscribed to our channel, which means they can sort of watch and see when the new content is coming on. And so we even entered at the base level, which is just uploading 6 pieces of media per month. And so we just
And
thought,
is there a limit to how long those can be?
If there is, I'm not aware of it. One of the things that we have chosen to do is to go ahead and upload entire worship services. So there's a lot of content on Pando that's only a sermon. But when we spoke to the Pando app folks, they said anytime you can add the musical portion of your service in, The inmates are very interested in that. They want to have a full worship service experience, and so that's been good. And so our people have been super excited, and it's been interesting because we have some former inmates who are members of our church now, a number of those, and we continue to have more and more. And now we've got a few who actually watched us on Pando when they were incarcerated, and now they're out, and it's just kind of helped to make the connection with us.
And for them, they come in knowing who you are when they arrive, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, they feel like it's almost like they're another campus of our church.
Sure.
And when they choose, and I know we're not probably the only church that they're interacting with, but frankly, we're probably the only church for these that we know personally. We're probably the only church that's going in and out, who they can meet personally and participate with, on an ongoing basis through the app. So yeah, we're thrilled. You can watch every single piece of content that you put on. We have analytics that we can watch, that we can see how many people are watching that one, and we can look at it sermon by sermon or message by message. And so they've been great to work with, just a great ministry. God Behind Bars, of course, are the ones that are behind that. And so we're thrilled to be a part of it.
And the plans going forward then, I mean, I realize it depends a lot on funding. You have more content
Sure.
than you have slots. So it's a plan going
Oh, there's no
forward to
doubt.
try and, you have someone now who's responsible for that content, primarily, or is it a committee thing, or how are you
No,
working?
yeah. So we have good question. We've got one of our media guys that is the one that regularly uploads that content. We came in at the base level, which allows us to have 6 uploads per month, and so we're just going to sort of stay at that level until we perhaps have a donor that really catches that vision, that wants to go further with that. I mean, there certainly are plans. I mean, there is a level, the highest level allows you to have unlimited, content uploads, which would be amazing. But that's not where we are right now, but we're super pleased with where we are because we're just getting a lot of viewers. And
Well, and I understand that, it can sound kind of cold to talk about numbers, right? Because Jesus left
yeah,
the 99 for the one, but
yeah,
that's the point, isn't it?
yes,
Is the one that you can't find anywhere else or any way else, right? You experienced that when you went to K dorm at Styles, right? That K
yes,
pod where everybody is segregated and they get that
yes.
1 hour a day out, and people can experience church that way through the tablets now that couldn't do it otherwise.
Yeah. Frankly, the ones that I'm the most excited about, and I mentioned this a little earlier, is not the guys that go to chapel or the gals. I'm more excited that Pando reaches to the tablet of the one who has just the slightest bit of spiritual interest, because maybe they've hit their rock bottom and they don't want anybody else to know it, but they can quietly get that free content. That's why the organizations have to pay to upload our content. It's not because they're trying to make a lot of money. It's they've got to fund what it takes to actually get the content onto the app, to make it free for the incarcerated individuals. And so the thing that excites me the most are the ones who are not in the faith-based dorms, and they're just quietly seeking God, and they're able to do that slowly but surely and at their own pace, right there on their bed when nobody else is listening, in the middle of the night, or whenever they have their opportunity on the tablets. And so it's been a great opportunity, and we're excited about it.
One of the things that we talked about earlier was adding an outro onto the content that we have that
Mhm.
give the inmate who's experiencing the service an opportunity to give their lives to Christ because they can't come down to the altar, like we
Right.
have them do it at the church service. And if I'm not mistaken, there is a way on the Pando app for them to let you know that they accepted Christ that day. Is that correct?
Yes, there is that way, and I have been sort of trying to think a little bit about what's the better way to engage. And that's why I appreciated your comment earlier. And so that's what we're going to plan on doing, is filming a very prison specific outro, so that at the very end of the service, when we're making an appeal to the people, within our congregation who are there present in the room, or even those online, um, they need to have a specific way that they can make a response, that's different than the way that the people in the room, or even just watching the online content, wherever they are. So I appreciated that idea, and that's an easy thing for us to do. And like I said, anything we can do to make those inmates feel like, what, we're doing this for them. We think about them, we care for them. One of the greatest things our pastor has done over the last couple of years, when we jumped into prison ministry, is he began, introducing every one of the messages. Every time he starts a message, he gives a little greeting to all those who are our men and women, who are incarcerated. And then we, as the church, just kind of give a little 5-second clap or whatever. But what's happened is that's just sort of dripped down every single time he's going to speak the word of God, that comes out. And so our church has come on board with, okay, these are important people, and we're remembering them, we're thinking of them. So then when we were able, because we were only able to take recorded versions in of our messages before, which you guys helped us do quite a bit, limited on, how many we're seeing those. But now we feel like there's really no limit, because I know that the Pando app, not only, are there tens of thousands who are watching on Pando currently, but this is a program that's expanding across the United States right now, as other, prison systems besides, TDCJ, are also coming on board and seeing the value of these tablets. And I just expect this to be a platform that's just going to expand the reach, of the message far beyond Texas, and which is already beyond Texas. But I just expect other states to come on board as well. But that's not going to
I'm sure
change.
they will, and when you give them an opportunity to write and tell you about it and engage with you, they will, and you'll see them coming from all over. I think it's
Yeah.
420,000 inmates nationwide. And I just want to give you a little glimpse. Like you said, we used to take those recorded messages in on DVD, to the Plain State Unit and to Ramsey. And back then, Pastor Chris or whoever was the pastor that day giving the message would say,
Yeah.
"We want to say a special welcome to the men at the Ramsey unit and the women at the Plain State unit."
Yeah.
And when that would go across in the congregation there in prison, as soon as they'd say, "We want to welcome the men at the Ramsey unit," if we were at Ramsey, the next 2 minutes of whatever was said, you couldn't hear because of the yelling and screaming and the applause and the amens that were going on in the congregation there
Wow.
at the prison church, because they were just so excited to hear a free world church welcoming them to their service. And then when we were at Plain State with those, they'd say Ramsey, and then you hear nothing, and the women at the Plain State unit, and likewise, it would just go wild.
Yeah.
So now, if
Love
you could
that.
put that at the individual level, when an inmate, hears a pastor in a free world church saying, "We want to welcome you, who are incarcerated, to our service today," that touches men and women in a way that is just really hard to describe. And yeah, there's a lot of other content that's on Pando from churches, free world churches, but I think United City is pretty unique in the way that they engage that way with the incarcerated. And I think that goes down to the theme or the mission of United City Church, which
Amen.
which is every person every day crossing every divide to live united in Christ. And
Amen.
and you guys have just seen that as one more divide, and are as excited to cross that as you are to cross a border to go to Peru.
It's true. And, it was so much fun. When I first heard about Pando, I'll never forget, I shared it with our pastor immediately. And he said, "We're doing this." He said, "There's absolutely no way." He said, "We have to do this. This is a perfect fit with who we are," which is exactly as you said. when we adopted that mission statement 4 years ago, we could have never imagined that this was part of what it meant. But it is. And so this, it's just it's just an application, right? I mean, all this is, it's just an app on a tablet. And that seems like, oh, it's just kind of some impersonal thing, but it's become very, very personal. And I appreciate what you said. And it's just what we hope and dream is that every one of those inmates feels, you know what, there's a church in Humble, Texas. If I'm in New Mexico or if I'm in California or if I'm right down the street here, in Dayton, Texas, there's a church in Humble that really cares about me. And they're thinking about me, not only, just like putting a little tag on the end, but right there in the middle. So I appreciate our pastor and the way that he has led us in that. And we're just excited for the days ahead and what God's going to do, and just the expanding number of people that are getting excited about prison ministry. And so great days ahead for sure.
Well, and another advantage of Pando is, as you know from personal experience, sometimes you go to a unit thinking you're going to have a chapel service and they're locked down, or the gate
I
list is
know.
missing, or there's been a fight, and so
Yes.
things happen, and you don't always get the opportunity to have the planned church services. I mean, recently, last September, the whole TDCJ was locked down for weeks.
Yes.
But you know
Yes.
what?
We were trying to get in to do some of our Bible studies and things, and we were just at their mercy, understandably so. But
But
again,
with
the Pando
Pando,
app
it
was
gets in.
going. Yeah, that's right.
There's no lockdown that it doesn't get around.
It's perfect.
Well, Pastor David, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today about this, and I look forward to the day when I can start looking at statistics that Less Than the Least has, and
Yeah,
you as one of our church partners, and Sagemont and other church partners will be looking to you to help us provide content for that when we're
you bet.
ready to go. But I believe God has plans for us to continue to reach inmates and to do it in as many inventive ways as we can.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love how creative and how this is such it's a simple way and it's really working. And so that makes us excited about it. We're glad to be on board with you guys at Less Than the Least, and are just grateful for the ways that you help us and kind of and really train us and in many ways mentor us along to think of things that we wouldn't have thought of on our own. It's a great partnership and we appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless. And hey, thanks for joining us today on The Edge, and we'll catch you again sometime.